Welcome to The Explainer. You know, in the world of software, we've always had manuals for humans. We call them README files. But what about a manual for an AI? Well, today, we're diving into a new standard that's quickly becoming the essential instruction manual for AI coders. It's called AGENTS.md, and believe me, it's changing how we collaborate with machines.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a question that honestly had a really messy answer until very recently. When a human developer joins a project, what do? You point them to the README file. Simple. But what about an AI coding agent? How do you onboard it?
To really get why AGENTS.md is such a big deal, we've got to look back at the chaos it replaced. AI coding tools just exploded onto the scene, right? But everybody had their own set of rules, and it created this massive headache for developers.
So, not that long ago, a developer's project folder was, well, a total mess. You had all these competing instruction files for every single tool. You'd have a Claude.md for Anthropic's AI, a Gemini.md for Google's, and a separate file for literally every AI. The goal was to just sweep all of that away and replace it with one single standardized file, agents.md.
And this chaos, it wasn't just messy, it was expensive. I mean, think about the maintenance nightmare. A tiny change to your setup meant you had to go hunt down and update, 3, 4, maybe 5 different files? It also created this thing called vendor lock-in, which basically trapped developers with one AI company just because switching was way too much of a hassle. The frustration was, you could feel it. This isn't just my opinion. Developers themselves were calling their own project setups cursed. I mean, seriously, cursed? When the people who are actually building the software start using words like that, you know the problem is real.
All right, so out of all that chaos, something pretty elegant started to emerge. The industry's biggest players, facing more and more frustration from their users, they did something kind of surprising. They decided to work together.
The core idea here is this brilliant separation of concerns. The README.md file, that's the front door for a human developer. It's high level, it's welcoming. The agents.md file, though, that's totally different. It's the dedicated, machine-readable playbook. It's got all the nitty-gritty, explicit commands an AI needs to get to work, and it keeps all that complexity from cluttering up the human docs.
And what's really fascinating here is how this whole thing happened. This wasn't one company trying to force its format on everyone else. Nope. Instead, you had this coalition of rivals. We're talking major competitors, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, all coming together to solve a shared problem. They knew this was hurting all of their users, and that cooperation, well, that's what gave the standard immediate credibility. So they came up with a few really simple but super powerful ground rules. First, consistency. It's always named agents.md, and it always lives right in the root of the project. Simple. Second, it's just plain old Markdown, which means it's incredibly easy for both people and machines to read. And third, it's flexible. There's no rigid, complicated format, so it can adapt to pretty much any kind of project you can throw at it.
Okay, so what's actually in one of these files? Like, what kind of information does an AI actually need to get the job done right? Well, the structure is, honestly, refreshingly simple. It just uses standard Markdown headers to break things up into logical sections. So you'll find things like precise setup commands, really detailed instructions on how to run all the tests, and even the specific rules for how to format pull requests. And really importantly, it has a whole section for security considerations, essential guardrails you absolutely need for any autonomous agent.
And look, don't make the mistake of thinking this is just for little toy projects or simple scripts. No way. The official examples out there reference some pretty advanced tools like npm and Turbo. These are the kinds of things you use to manage monorepos. We're talking massive, super complex code bases. That's a huge signal that agents.md was built from the ground up for serious enterprise-level work.
And it even has this really clever, kind of elegant way to deal with those huge projects. See, you can have a main global agents.md file at the very top for the big project-wide rules. But then you can stick more specific files down inside the subprojects. The rule is super simple. The AI agent just reads the closest file it can find. That makes sure it always has the most relevant, most fine-grained context for whatever it's working on right then and there. So, this simple little text file, it is so much more than just a way to tidy up a project folder. Its real importance, the real game changer, is how it's reshaping the entire ecosystem for AI tools. Let's dig into why this matters so much.
I mean, the speed at which the industry got behind this was just incredible. You've got developers in mid-2025 just venting their frustrations online, and then, just a few months later, All the major players had publicly committed to this one unified standard. That kind of rapid shift from complete chaos to consensus, it just shows you how badly everyone needed a solution.
And the momentum since then has been, wow, this isn't just some proposal sitting in a document somewhere. This is a real-world standard with massive, lightning-fast adoption. We're already talking over 20,000 projects using Agents.md to guide their AI collaborators.
Strategically, this is just huge. By creating a common language for instructions, Agents.md basically turns that whole layer into a commodity. It completely levels the playing field. Now, AI tools can't lock you in with their own special format. They actually have to compete on the quality of their models and features. And that's what fosters real innovation. It even opens the door for these crazy advanced workflows where you have multiple specialized AIs all collaborating on the same task.
You know, all of this, it really leads to a fundamental shift in how we think about AI and software. When you have standards like Agents.md, it makes you ask a really interesting question. Are we just programming better tools, or are we finally learning how to properly onboard our very first AI teammates?